If you're part of the crowd that finished Hollow Knight and was left with that existential void, okay, now what? What do I play to feel this again? I totally understand you. Because it's not just about being a Metroidvania. It's about entering a world that swallows you whole, makes you curious at every corner, and rewards you for persisting even when you've already accepted you're gonna die 3 more times. So today, I've picked out 10 games that, if you enjoy that mix of exploration, dark atmosphere, and precise combat, you need to put on your radar. And look, in 2026, you're gonna have to find some time to play these mandatory games for Hollow Knight fans. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to start. F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is that kind of Metroidvania hidden in plain sight that many people ended up passing over, and that's a mistake, because it delivers exploration, progression, and an interconnected world with its own personality. It's a 2021 Metroidvania developed by Thai Games and published by Bilibili, with releases starting on PlayStation and later arriving on PC, Switch, and Xbox. What caught me immediately was the contrast in mood. Instead of the melancholic emptiness of Hallownest, here you have a diesel punk vibe full of metal, smoke, and neon, with a city that feels like it's always running behind the chaos. You control Rayton, an anthropomorphic rabbit and veteran who returns to action with a giant mechanical fist to face the occupation of the Legion and the underworld that profits from it. This already changes the energy of the game. Instead of fragility and a needle, it's impact, weight, and noise. If Hollow Knight taught you to respect space and timing, F.I.S.T. rewards you for being aggressively stylish, because the combat revolves around 3 very distinct weapons, and the fun lies in switching between them to maintain combos and control. The weapons are the fist, the drill, and the whip. And the game really opens up when you start mixing all 3 mid-fight, as if you were building your own flowchart of violence. At the same time, it doesn't try to be a Souls-like. The structure is more checkpoint plus combat rooms plus bosses, with a more direct and arcade rhythm. And that's where the part that resonates most with Hollow Knight fans comes in: purposeful exploration. The game bills itself as a Metroidvania with exploration, intense combat, and challenging platforming, and it delivers because the map folds into shortcuts, tunnels, and doors that make you think, okay, I'll come back here when I have the right skill. Additionally, the weapons themselves function as exploration tools and puzzles, which is a great touch, like the arm pulling and moving things, the drill helping in specific situations, and the whip becoming a grappling hook for mobility. Another thing I like is how the presentation sells the world. It's a 2.5D game with very polished visuals and environments full of depth, giving it that big production feel in a genre that is often very indie and minimalist. F.I.S.T. is one of those games that is a pleasure to play just for the movement and the fights, and before you know it, you're checking every corner of the map for secrets and upgrades, just the way a good Metroidvania trains you to do. Blade Chimera is a 2D Metroidvania with a cyberpunk feel and a touch of occultism and Japanese mythology. It easily fits into the category of, if you enjoyed Hollow Knight, you need to at least try this. Except here, the focus leans more toward fluid combat and action pacing than contemplative mystery. The story follows Shin, a demon hunter who lost his memory and ends up teaming up with Lux, a demon who can turn into a sword and also manipulate time. This duo becomes the heart of the adventure. What hooked me, and what I think will grab Metroidvania lovers, is how the game sells the becoming strong again fantasy. You start limited and recover techniques and mobility as you progress, including things like double jumps and other abilities via a progression skill tree. The feeling is very direct. It's not a game that wants you to be lost for hours. It wants to keep you moving forward, hitting everything and unlocking new ways to traverse the world. In combat, Blade Chimera has that delight of letting you play with your loadout. Shin uses various weapons like knives, pistols, and swords, and Lux actively participates by both attacking alongside him and turning into an invoked sword that changes the dynamic of the fights. A cool detail is that the synergy between the two forces your brain into a constant balance of attack and resources, so the combat doesn't just turn into mindless button mashing, at least when the game is at its best. Still, a fair warning, many common enemies can feel too simple and fall into a repetitive rhythm depending on your taste for challenge. In terms of exploration, it has some really cool ideas that I personally love when a Metroidvania tries, using Lux to manipulate the environment. You restore silhouettes of objects for a period of time. Bridges, ropes, platforms. Reverse the movement of certain elements to solve puzzles. And can even stick the sword into the wall to create a foothold to reach high places. This adds a spice of creativity to the platforming because it's not just, I got the dash, I'll come back later. It's how do I use this mechanic now to manufacture a path? Developed by Moon Studios, Ori and the Blind Forest, Definitive Edition delivers everything you expect from the genre. Interconnected exploration, abilities that unlock new areas, challenging combat, and go addictive feeling of discovering every secret hidden on the map. The Definitive Edition adds new areas, 2 powerful abilities, Dash and Light Burst, multiple difficulty levels, and even a 1 life mode for the bravest players. Visually, this game is breathtaking. We're talking about hand-painted backgrounds, fluid animations, and art direction that will make you stop just to appreciate the beauty of each environment. The most impressive part? All of this was made in Unity by an independent studio formed by developers scattered around the world. The fully orchestrated soundtrack completes the experience, always perfectly matching what is happening on screen. Now, don't let the visual beauty fool you. This game is challenging in just the right way. You control Ori, a white guardian spirit, and Sign, who acts as your eyes and attacking weapon. The progression system works through 3 skill trees that you unlock with experience points gained by defeating enemies and exploring the world. The escape sequences are especially intense, where you are practically forced to memorize the path and use all your skills precisely. The story is emotional and surprisingly heavy for a game with such an enchanting look. The Forest of Nibel is dying, and Ori needs to restore the lost elements while facing Kuro, an owl who acts as the antagonist but has noble motivations behind her actions. It's all a matter of perspective. The narrative is told through striking facial expressions and dialogues in an unknown language, creating a unique atmosphere. What makes this game perfect for those who loved Hollow Knight is precisely the combination of Metroidvania exploration with brilliant level design. You start fragile and limited, but as you gain new abilities like wall jump and double jump, Ori transforms into an extremely agile and powerful creature. The fully interconnected map is full of secret areas that can only be accessed with specific skills or special items, rewarding exploration and backtracking. Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition is definitely one of the best Metroidvanias of recent years. With precise controls, delightful gameplay, and incredible world building, this title deserves a spot in any fan's library. If you enjoyed the dark atmosphere and challenge of Hollow Knight, you will fall in love with the emotional and visually stunning journey that Ori offers. It's a game that perfectly balances difficulty, narrative, and artistic design in a way that few can. Touhou Luna Nights is the kind of game that goes completely unnoticed by many, but it hides one of the most creative and addictive mechanics I've ever seen in a Metroidvania. Developed by Team Ladybug and based on the Touhou project Universe, the game puts you in control of Sakuya Izayoi, the head maid of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, who has been sent by her mistress Remilius Scarlet to a parallel version of the mansion as a sort of cruel prank. If you enjoyed the gothic atmosphere and challenge of Hollow Knight, prepare for a completely different but equally satisfying experience. The big hook of this game is the combat system based on time manipulation, which works genially. You attack by throwing knives that consume MP, but you can also stop or slow down time using another resource simply called time. Here comes the master stroke. When you freeze time, your attacks no longer consume MP, but rather the time resource. This creates a strategic dance where you need to manage two resources simultaneously, deciding when to spend MP attacking normally or when to stop everything and unleash a festival of knives on your enemies. But wait, because it gets even better with the graze mechanic. You know that feeling of narrowly dodging enemy projectiles in bullet hell games? Here, doing that recovers both MP and time, turning every encounter into a tense balance between attack and defense. You literally need to take risks by getting close to danger to keep your resources maxed out, and when you master this, the combat becomes incredibly fluid and satisfying. Bosses have over 10,000 HP while your attacks deal only 11 damage, so if you don't manage everything like a pro, you'll end up out of ammo at the worst possible moment. The gameplay is extremely responsive and fast, exactly what a modern Metroidvania needs to be. Sakuya starts weak, just throwing knives. But as you explore the mansion, you unlock essential powers like double jumping, sliding through narrow spaces, and other types of attacks like an electric chainsaw that attacks upwards. Time control isn't just for combat. You use frozen knives as platforms, and colored objects react in different ways. Yellow objects move backward, purple ones ignore your powers, creating very demanding platforming puzzles. Now, I have to be honest, the game has its issues. Backtracking exists and can be annoying because enemies respawn every time you change screens, and the game doesn't always open convenient shortcuts like other more experienced Metroidvanias do. The map is too extensive for the number of secrets it offers, so those seeking 100% might find the effort unrewarding. The main campaign lasts only 4 to 5 hours, doubling if you want to platinum it, and there is no extra post-game content like a harder second journey. Despite the criticisms regarding length and backtracking, Touhou Luna Nights is a Metroidvania every fan of the genre should try for its unique mechanics. The energetic soundtrack perfectly frames the frantic action. Famous bosses from the Touhou universe like Reimu Hakure and Marisa Kirasame offer battles with complex and satisfying patterns, and when you master the graze system combined with time manipulation, the game reaches a level of flow that few can achieve. If Hollow Knight won you over with its atmosphere and challenge, Luna Nights will surprise you with a completely different but equally addictive proposal. Developed by Team Ladybug, the same team behind Touhou Luna Nights, under the supervision of original creator Ryo Mizuno, Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth puts you in control of Deedlit, a high elf who wakes up in a mysterious labyrinth filled with enemies and companions from her past. The story takes place before the events of the Crown of the Covenant and explores previously unknown events in Deedlit's life, creating an experience that brilliantly mixes nostalgia and novelty. The central mechanic of the game revolves around switching elemental spirits, and this is where it truly shines. You find two spirits along the journey, Sylph and Salamander Fire, and you can switch between them instantly during combat. Each spirit completely alters Deedlit's attributes. Sylph grants levitation and wind damage, while Salamander offers fire damage and a ground slide with temporary invulnerability. Most interestingly, both allow you to absorb damage from their respective element, turning enemy attacks into healing and making them essential for accessing certain areas or obstacles. The spirit level up system is pure genius, inspired by Ikaruga. When you defeat enemies, they drop soul screamers that are absorbed by the spirit that is not currently active, allowing it to level up to a maximum of 3. Here's the strategy. When a spirit reaches level 3, Deedlit gains constant HP regeneration, but if you take damage, the active spirit loses a level. This creates an incredible tactical dance where you need to keep switching spirits to keep both leveled up, ensuring constant healing and taking advantage of the right elemental resistances against each enemy. Combat offers variety with swords for powerful melee attacks and a bow and arrow for distant enemies. You find and freely equip various weapons along the way, each with different range, speed, and damage. And you can even sell the ones you no longer need to the Dwarf Gim, a recurring character from the Lodoss War series. The bow isn't just for combat, it's also used to solve environmental puzzles, adding an extra layer of exploration. As you advance through the 6 distinct areas of the Labyrinth, you unlock skills like sliding and hovering that allow access to previously inaccessible areas in true Metroidvania style. Visually, the game is beautiful, with polished pixel art and fluid animations that received unanimous praise. The soundtrack is energetic and has that characteristic Castlevania rhythm that perfectly sets the pace for the action. Boss encounters are a special highlight, featuring dragons like Bramd, Shooting Star, and Nars, as well as other famous characters from the series. However, I need to be transparent. The game is short and more linear than Symphony of the Night, with critics pointing out a lack of visual variety in the environments and low difficulty. Despite the compact size and linear progression, Record of Lodoss War Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth delivers a solid and unique Metroidvania experience. The Ikaruga-inspired element swapping mechanic combined with classic Symphony of the Night exploration creates something special that every Hollow Knight fan should try. If you enjoyed the interconnected exploration and challenging combat of Hollow Knight, you will love this adventure, more focused on action and elemental resource management that works as a terrific love letter to Metroid and Castlevania. It's short, but intense and memorable from start to finish. An Elysian Tale is one of those indie gems that proves a solo developer can create something absolutely spectacular. Developed almost entirely by Dean Dodrill in his basement over 3.5 years, the game puts you in control of Dust, an anthropomorphic warrior with amnesia who wakes up wielding a talking sword named Ara, and accompanied by Fidget, a high-pitched flying creature that divides opinions. If you enjoy the interconnected exploration and fluid combat of Hollow Knight, prepare for a Metroidvania adventure that masterfully blends frantic action with RPG elements. Combat is where this game really explodes on the screen with style and intensity. You have basic attacks with the sword, a blade spinning move, a rolling dodge, and even a parry with a generous success window. But the true masterstroke comes when you combine Dust's attacks with Fidget's magic. While Dust spins his sword, Fidget's magic projectiles transform into a devastating storm that fills the entire screen, allowing for combos of hundreds of hits almost automatically. It is incredibly satisfying to see entire groups of enemies launched into the air while you dance among them like an agile tornado of death. Visually, the game is simply stunning and remains impressive to this day. Every frame looks like a perfectly animated cartoon, with hand-drawn characters, vibrant and colorful environments, and lighting and particle effects that occasionally cause slight frame rate drops, but are totally worth it for the visual impact. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal, but what really steals the show is the high-quality voice acting that brings the characters to life. The environments range from wide horizontal expanses to underground caves that descend steeply, each full of subtle details and unique atmosphere. As a Metroidvania, Dust delivers classic progression very competently. You revisit previous areas with new abilities like double jumping, sliding, and wall climbing that unlock secret routes, fat chests full of treasure, and even cages containing characters from other indie games like Meat Boy and Mr. Spelunky. The world map allows you to select the areas you want to visit, and the game has a clever implementation of side quests that you can complete at your own pace. RPG elements include gaining experience, skill points to improve stats like damage and defense, various equipment, and even a crafting system with blueprints and materials clearly inspired by Castlevania. Symphony of the Night. An Elysian Tale is an enchanting Metroidvania adventure that is worth every minute. The narrative about amnesia and identity surprises with dark moments, balanced by childish humor in the side quests that work perfectly. The platforming is relatively simple, but never fails to entertain, with some sections in the final chapter that really test your timing and climbing skills. If Hollow Knight won you over with its exploration and sense of progression, Dust will surprise you with a focus more toward flashy hack-and-slash action combined with that classic Metroidvania design that works so well. Developed by Andrew Shodice and published by Finji, Tunic puts you in control of an adorable fox who wakes up on a beach without any tutorial, explanation, or direction, just you, a mysterious world, and your curiosity to guide you. The inspiration comes from the classic The Legend of Zelda with its isometric camera and exploration, but the game adds Dark Souls elements like bonfires that reset enemies, an upgrade system tied to money, and challenging combat that requires timing and learning patterns. The most ingenious and creative mechanic of the game is the instruction manual that you collect page by page during exploration. It is literally a recreation of the strategy guides companies made in the 80 seconds and 90 seconds, implemented within the game as if it were a map and menu used by the character. The problem? It is written in an incomprehensible fictional language with its own symbols that you need to decipher through experimentation and deduction. As you find new pages scattered throughout the world, you unlock not just maps and tips, but also reveal hidden mechanics the game never explicitly explained. It is a masterpiece of design that turns the entire game into one big puzzle. Combat is functional and challenging, clearly inspired by Souls-likes with stamina-based dodge rolls, heavy hits, blocking, and bosses that require perfect timing. You can equip different weapons and items found along the way, and the stat system scales well like in Zelda, allowing you to become significantly stronger as you progress. The difficulty is high and comparable to games like Death's Door, but here comes one of the best design decisions. The game offers complete accessibility options that allow you to adjust the difficulty or even disable permanent death if the combat is frustrating you. There is no secret achievement or special ending for playing on the standard difficulty. The focus is on exploration and puzzles, not on proving your combat skill. Visually, Tunic is absolutely charming with its minimalist 3D isometric style that looks like it came out of a fairy tale. The art direction is exceptional, and the environments are filled with secret passages you can't see due to the camera angle, hidden shortcuts, and secrets that genuinely reward curiosity and experimentation. The soundtrack is good and fits the visuals perfectly, though it can get repetitive in long sessions. The boss battles are particularly excellent, offering memorable challenges that test everything you've learned. The world of Tunic works more like Zelda than a traditional Metroidvania. There is a smaller overworld with segregated areas that you complete and rarely revisit, rather than the constant back and forth between interconnected areas typical of the genre. The puzzles are simple in individual execution, but the whole world transforms into a massive jigsaw puzzle where you need to constantly scout the location, discover which paths you can access, and figure out what the undescribed items you find are for. The secret non-linearity is dense and full of layered techniques that only appear in true Metroidvanias. Tunic is one of the most unique game designs in the current industry that will mark you deeply if you connect with its premise. If Hollow Knight won you over with its atmospheric exploration and sense of discovery, Tunic will surprise you with a completely different but equally satisfying approach that celebrates classic game design using modern devices. The only downside is that if the idea of reminiscing about the old days of video games doesn't interest you, Tunic offers little beyond that. It is competent in everything, but nothing stands out as much as deciphering the riddles hidden behind its fictional language. Rain World is probably the most unique, brutal, and polarizing game you will find on this list. Developed by Video Cult and published by Adult Swim Games, the game puts you in control of a slug cat, a small, vulnerable, and absolutely adorable creature that sits in the middle of the food chain of an apocalyptic ecosystem. You've been separated from your family during a devastating flood and must survive cycle after cycle while searching for food, shelter, and trying to avoid being devoured by predators much larger and stronger than you. This is not a game about becoming powerful, it is a survival simulator where you remain fragile from beginning to end. The core gameplay revolves around rain cycles, which are the most brilliant and stressful mechanic in the game. You have a limited time before torrential, deadly rains sweep the world, killing absolutely everything that isn't in a safe shelter. Each cycle, you need to collect enough food, usually bats, centipedes, or other small animals, and find a hibernation room before the rain arrives. The food system works with energy pips. In the easiest mode, you need 3 pips to hibernate, but you can carry up to 6, allowing you to carry over excess to the next cycle and have a safety margin. Failing to hibernate means instant death and loss of progress, forcing you to restart that cycle from zero. The great revolution of Rain World lies in its dynamic and living ecosystem that functions independently of you. Enemies are not programmed obstacles, they are intelligent creatures with their own motivations that hunt, eat each other, flee when scared, and genuinely try to survive just like you. Each creature is born in a specific den, and when it dies, another of the same species appears in the next cycle, but with a different appearance. If a creature falls off a cliff and can't get back to its original den, it changes dens and even shares space with other species. Enemy placement is semi-randomized and fluid, meaning no 2 runs are identical. An area might be infested with deadly lizards in one cycle and completely empty in the next. The movement system is absolutely phenomenal with procedural animation that makes every state of the slug cat feel natural and organic rather than a discrete set of pre-programmed animations. You can jump, climb, grab things, throw spears, and the game hides an absurd technical depth with slides, pole hops, demo dashing through tiny holes in spike walls, and even extremely complicated tricks like the extended instant hop, where you throw an object backward while sliding. Every movement has weight and perfect responsiveness, but the control has intentional delays in certain actions that some people hate. You can even throw spears into walls to create custom climbing bars, though the throw is always straight in the direction you are looking, limiting creativity. Now, being honest, I have to say, Rain World is unfair, frustrating, and will kill you hundreds of times for reasons completely out of your control. There are no permanent upgrades, levels, or skill points. You will always be the same fragile creature. Killing a giant predator gives no loot, experience, or fanfare, only a temporary corpse. The game actively rejects the idea of linear progress through karma gates that only open after you survive several cycles consecutively. Randomization can make you die in seconds, because a vulture decided to show up along with 2 lizards competing for food, while in the next cycle that same area is empty. There is no system of justice or balance. The world is raw and indifferent to your achievements. Rain World is definitely a niche game that will violently divide opinions. If Hollow Knight won you over with its challenge and sense of oppressive atmosphere, Rain World takes this to a philosophical extreme where survival is more important than narrative, and the journey matters more than the destination. With over 1,600 rooms spread across 12 diverse regions filled with ancient secrets and undiscovered dangers, this is a world that demands patience, adaptability, and a willingness to die repeatedly until you learn the patterns of the predators. If you want a truly unique experience that challenges all modern design conventions and genuinely puts you in the shoes of a vulnerable prey fighting to survive, Rain World is mandatory, but prepare yourself psychologically because this game has no mercy. Monster Sanctuary is an absolutely brilliant fusion of Metroidvania with monster capturing and battle mechanics in the style of Pokemon. It is an experience that any Hollow Knight fan should know. Developed by Moirai Games, the game puts you in control of a monster keeper who starts by choosing one of 4 spectral familiars, the main creatures that will guide you through your first steps in the sanctuary. With charming pixel art and a classic side-scrolling camera, you will explore 13 interconnected areas filled with secrets, challenging platforms, and a total of 111 monsters to capture, hatch, evolve, and train. Exploration works exactly as you'd expect from a traditional Metroidvania, with a Super Metroid-style map and typical themed areas like forests, beaches, and caves. The difference lies in how the monsters in your party are used outside of combat. Each creature has unique exploration abilities that allow you to fly, glide, clear paths, and solve environmental puzzles. You need these specific skills to access secret areas and progress through the world, creating that classic feeling of revisiting old locations with new abilities and discovering paths that were previously inaccessible. The level structure has enough complexity to keep exploration interesting, though some critics find the platforming a bit generic. The combat system is where Monster Sanctuary really sets itself apart, with tactical 3 versus 3 turn-based battles. The combo mechanic is absolutely central. Every action you perform increases the combo multiplier, and when you finally unleash a direct attack on your opponents, all that accumulation turns into devastating damage. The strategy lies in ordering your attacks efficiently, deciding when to buff the team, when to debuff enemies, and when to discharge all the accumulated damage. You choose the attack order of your 3 monsters, and attacking first with one can provide a bonus to the next, creating complex synergies between the creatures in your party. Monster progression is incredibly deep and allows for total customization. Each creature has a talent tree with 4 different branches, but you can't fill them all, forcing strategic choices on how to develop that monster. The same monster can have completely different roles depending on the chosen talents. It could be a tank, support, or pure DPS. Monsters have separate physical and magical attributes, an elemental advantage and disadvantage system like Pokemon, and evolve at set levels by gaining new abilities. You capture new monsters through eggs that are rewards based on your combat performance. The battle ranking system is brilliant, but can also be frustrating. Every fight is graded based on criteria like number of turns, excess damage, and overall efficiency. The better your score, the higher the chance of getting rare eggs from the defeated creatures. This forces you to constantly optimize your strategies, experiment with different team combinations, and seek perfect synergies between monsters. The downside is that this can make battles extremely long and tedious, especially when you speed up the pace but still have to go through repetitive combat. Monster Sanctuary is a unique Metroidvania that will especially please those who enjoy theory crafting and optimizing builds. The game offers massive content with an online PvP mode where you face other players with your custom teams, and even optional modes like Randomizer, Bravery, and Permadeath that drastically increase replayability. If Hollow Knight won you over with exploration and skill progression, Monster Sanctuary will surprise you with a proposal that replaces personal power-ups with a growing collection of creatures that literally open new paths through the world. The exploration may be simplistic compared to the best in the genre, but the strategic battle system compensates for those who love tactical depth. Owlboy is a masterpiece of pixel art that took 10 years to develop and delivers one of the most emotional and visually stunning 2D adventures you will find. Developed by D-Pad Studio, the game puts you in control of Otis, a young mute owl who cannot whistle like others of his kind and is constantly reprimanded by his strict mentor. The story takes place in a fantastic world of floating islands inhabited by anthropomorphic owls, sky pirates, and ancient ruins that contrast with modern technology, creating a unique setting that harmoniously blends fantasy and steampunk. If you loved Hollow Knight for its touching narrative and immersive atmosphere, Owlboy will win you over in a completely different way. The core mechanic of the game is the ability to fly freely through all the scenarios, which completely changes the traditional 2D platforming structure. Otis can fly virtually anywhere, carry objects and people, and the agility of movement combined with this freedom makes exploration extremely satisfying. Most interestingly, Otis doesn't gain new powers during the adventure like in other games of the genre. Instead, he makes new friends who actively help him. You carry companions like the soldier Getty, who has a pistol, and the mysterious Alphonse, who has a fire shotgun, and you can switch between them freely during combat and exploration. Visually, Owlboy is simply impressive with its high-bit style that recalls 16 and 32-bit titles, but with modern refinements. The scenarios are immense and detailed, the sprites have fluid and elaborate animations, and there's an incredible thematic variety with lava caves, snowy villages, and giant waterfalls. The characters are charismatic and manage to convey complex emotions even with the relatively low resolution, especially Otis, who communicates entirely through body language. The soundtrack uses real instruments and is absolutely memorable, perfectly matching each location and situation. The gameplay constantly mixes action, exploration, platforming, and puzzles creatively. The game is linear rather than a traditional Metroidvania. Each area functions as a self-contained stage with its own themes and mechanics, from stealth infiltration in flying ships to navigating labyrinthine dark caves. Puzzles are varied, ranging from basic things like bombs and heavy rocks to unusual situations like dragging clouds to avoid air currents to make it rain in specific places. Boss battles are particularly creative, each requiring completely different strategies to win. Combat is simple in essence, but offers tactical depth. You shoot with your companions most of the time, but various enemies force different strategies. There are adversaries with reflective masks that must first be removed with Otis's spin attack before being vulnerable to shots. When multiple types of enemies appear simultaneously combined with environmental traps, the game requires real dexterity and attention. Otis is not very resilient, and it only takes a few hits to die, creating occasional difficulty spikes, though the game is not particularly difficult overall. Owlboy is an unmissable adventure that masterfully combines classic concepts with modern execution. The linear structure allows each area to be carefully crafted with varied and well thought out situations, although optional content is reduced and exploration rewards can disappoint due to their simplicity. If Hollow Knight won you over with its emotional narrative, oppressive atmosphere, and sense of discovery, Owlboy will surprise you with a touching story about failure and acceptance, captivating characters that really matter, and an inviting world full of visual beauty that will stay in your memory long after the final credits.